All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into a world of UFOs, government secrets, and maybe even some psychic espionage. We're talking about Jacob Barber,
Oh, yeah.
a former Air Force veteran who claims he spent 30 years
Wow.
retrieving and reverse engineering alien spacecraft.
I mean, that's a pretty long time. It's, some people dedicate their whole lives to certain pursuits,
Right.
but this is
Like-
pretty high stakes pursuits.
It's not like, making pottery or...
Oh, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is
This is alien spacecraft.
alien spacecraft, yeah. And what's so interesting about Barber is that, he's not just some guy on the internet making stuff up.
Exactly. He's got a verifiable background.
Yeah.
Air Force Special Operations, combat control training. He's even got an award for heroism in Bosnia.
That's right. And it gets even more interesting when you consider the evidence he's bringing to the table.
Right. We're talking video evidence, corroboration from colleagues, and even a Stanford professor backing up some of his claims.
Like that mysterious illness he talks about.
Oh, yeah. That sounds straight out of like a sci-fi horror movie.
Absolutely. I mean, hair loss, skin peeling, the
Yeah.
whole 9 yards.
It's gnarly.
It really is. And, his credentials have been checked out by multiple sources,
Right.
including a colonel who served in Delta Force
Wow.
and even had experience with nuclear weapons command.
So this is not someone to take lightly.
No, not at all. When Barber talks, people definitely
People listen.
tend to listen. So let's
dive into the
Okay.
beginning of this story. Where do we start?
Well, Barber claims that his first encounter with a non-human craft was this egg-shaped thing, no visible propulsion system, just kind of hanging out in the sky. And get this, they retrieved it at night using a helicopter and a long line.
Oh my gosh.
And there's actually video footage of this egg-shaped thing dangling from a helicopter.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's either
Right.
the
Scientific-
most elaborate hoax
Absolutely.
or
It's the real deal.
a real deal.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because this egg shape, it keeps popping up.
Right.
We've heard about it from the Navy pilots.
Yes.
It makes you wonder if there's something about this shape,
Yeah, maybe it's aerodynamic.
right? Or maybe it's just, the alien's favorite design.
Yeah, maybe they just think it looks cool.
Maybe. Who knows, right? But it's definitely intriguing.
Maybe they're just big fans of Easter.
Could be.
Big Easter bunny fans up in space.
Yeah, exactly. But, the egg wasn't the only unusual object that Barber claims to have encountered.
Oh, real? No.
There's another one he mentions called the Acorn,
The Acorn?
which he describes as basically a flying disc with 8 sections.
So like a segmented...
Yeah, segmented.
Like a pizza, yeah.
A flying
A
pizza?
flying pizza. Not your average aircraft, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
And this is where things, I think,
This is where things get a little wild.
get really strange.
Okay, so Barber describes this really intense experience while transporting another UAP, an 8-sided one.
The octagon, he calls
The
it.
octagon. Okay, and he talks about being overwhelmed with emotions, like a mix of sadness and happiness, and even feeling a connection to some kind of divine feminine energy.
Wow.
I mean, this sounds like something straight out of like a new age
It's like
sci-fi film or something.
it's like a whole other level of
Oh, yeah.
weirdness
Yeah.
that we haven't even touched on yet.
Yeah, we're getting into woo-woo territory here.
Absolutely. And, this whole idea of a psychic connection with UAPs,
Yeah.
that's definitely one of the most mind-boggling
It's one of the most.
aspects of Barber's story.
Yeah.
And it's not just him. Remember the Navy pilots who described a sense of communication?
Yes.
Even control with the UAPs they encountered?
Right, yeah. It's as if these objects are interacting with human consciousness on a level we're only beginning to understand.
So we're talking actual mind control here.
Yeah.
Like, these UAPs are reading our thoughts, messing with our emotions.
That's kind of what it sounds like, right?
That's both fascinating and slightly terrifying.
Absolutely. And, Barber takes it even further. He claims that there were actual psionics involved in this top secret UAP program.
Hold on.
Individuals with psychic abilities.
Okay, wait. So now we're talking about people with superpowers working for the government, like X-Men in black suits.
Essentially, that's exactly what he suggested.
Okay.
And to be fair, the idea of psionics or psychic abilities has been around for a long time. There's a whole field of parapsychology dedicated to studying this stuff, although it's often met with skepticism from mainstream science.
Right. Okay, so let's just say, for the sake of argument, that psionics is a real thing. How would it even work? Are we talking telepathy, telekinesis? mind bullets?
That's at the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And one that Barber doesn't really answer. He's pretty vague on the specifics of how this psionics thing works. But he insists that these individuals played a crucial role in the government's UAP program, using their abilities to interact with and even control these craft.
So we're talking about a secret government program involving psychic spies and alien spacecraft. This is getting more and more like an episode of The X-Files.
I know, right?
I'm starting to think we need to call Mulder and Scully to help us sort this out.
Maybe we should, yeah. But remember, we're just scratching the surface here.
Right.
He claims there's much more to tell.
Oh, boy.
And the deeper we dive, the stranger things get.
Well, in that case, let's dive right in.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this alleged psionic program. Who were these individuals? What were their abilities? And what kind of missions did they undertake? I am hooked.
All right, well, welcome back to our deep dive into the world of UAPs and the absolutely mind-boggling claims of Jacob Barber.
Right, we left off talking about these alleged psionics.
Yeah, these individuals with supposed psychic abilities who Barber says were a part of this secret government program, interacting with these mysterious craft.
It's like something's straight out of a comic book, right? You got secret government agencies, psychic spies, alien technology. I mean,
it's a lot.
It's almost too wild to believe.
It is.
But then again, Barber's whole story is full of surprises.
Right.
So what can you tell us about these alleged psionics? Who were these people? What kind of powers did they supposedly have?
Well, unfortunately, Barber doesn't really give us a ton of detail.
Yo, come on.
I know, right? It would be nice to have all the juicy specifics. But he does mention that there were multiple psionics involved, both men and women, and that they underwent rigorous training to develop and control their abilities.
Rigorous training, like psychic boot camp. Did they have to wear matching jumpsuits and levitate obstacle courses or something?
Oh, no, I doubt it was quite that dramatic. But he does suggest that these individuals were carefully selected and subjected to various tests and exercises to, hone their skills.
So what kind of skills are we talking about here? Telepathy, telekinesis. Did they have a psychic hotline to the mothership?
Well, Barber claims that these psionics could communicate with UAPs, summon them to specific locations, and even influence their movements. He even describes an incident where a psionic was able to remotely control a UAP, guiding it through a series of complex maneuvers.
Okay, now that's just showing off. It's like having a cosmic remote control for a UFO.
Right.
I wonder if they ever used it to order takeout. One extraterrestrial pizza, hold the anchovies, please.
You're full of jokes today.
Oh, you got to keep it light.
Oh, you do.
When you're talking about psychic spies and alien spacecraft, I mean, come on.
Fair enough. But seriously, if these claims are even remotely true,
right,
the implications are pretty mind-blowing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Imagine the possibilities if we could actually harness psychic abilities to control advanced technology.
Yeah, that would definitely change the game. No more traffic jams, no more long-distance relationships. Yeah. We could even have psychic sports leagues.
There you go.
And in a stunning upset, the Philadelphia Psychics defeat the Los Angeles Telepaths with a last-minute mind meld.
I love it. You've got a future as a psychic sports commentator.
There you go. But, all right, let's get back to Barber's story.
Okay, back to the serious stuff.
Yeah.
So he claims that his team even used a psionic asset during their own private UAP investigation after they had left the military.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and apparently they were able to successfully summon a UAP using this individual's abilities.
Wait, hold on. They actually summoned a UFO on demand. That's like having a psychic Uber for extraterrestrials. Take us to Alpha Centauri, please, and make sure it's a non-smoking craft.
Well, that's what Barber claims. And what's even more interesting is that this psionics experience seems to align with what Barber himself felt during his encounter with the Acorn.
Oh, right.
That sense of connection, the overwhelming emotions, the feeling of a feminine, divine energy.
Okay, so now we've got multiple people claiming to have these psychic connections with UAPs.
Right.
It's starting to feel less like a coincidence and more like a pattern.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head-scratcher, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, maybe there is something to this whole psionics thing after all.
Yeah.
Or maybe we've all just been watching too much sci-fi.
It's always a possibility.
It's always a possibility.
But, okay, let's say, for the sake of our deep dive here, that psionics is real and these individuals were actually working with UAPs. What does that tell us about the government's involvement in all of this? Were they trying to weaponize psychic abilities?
Ooh, interesting question.
Or were they hoping to learn from these extraterrestrial visitors? Like, what was the goal here?
Well, that's a great question, and one that Barber's story doesn't fully answer.
Oh, come on.
I know. There's always more questions than answers.
Yeah.
But he does hint at a struggle within the government over how to handle UAPs and the potential threat they represent. He even claims that he and his team were ultimately betrayed by their own government, which is why they decided to go rogue and form their own organization, Skywatcher.
Betrayed by the government. That's a serious accusation.
It is.
What exactly happened, and what were they hoping to achieve with Skywatcher?
Well, that's where the story takes another turn.
Oh.
It seems that the retrieval and reverse engineering of UAPs was just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, wow.
Barber claims there's a much deeper conspiracy at play.
Oh, conspiracy theories.
Involving hidden agendas, powerful forces.
This is getting good.
And a battle for control over information that could change the world as we know it.
Okay, now this is like a real-life X-Files episode. We've got conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, psychic spies.
I know, right?
I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Buckle up.
Tell me more about this conspiracy and what Barber and his team uncovered.
Well, before we get into all that, there's another unsettling aspect of Barber's story that we need to address.
Oh no, what now?
Remember that mysterious illness that he and his team contracted after transporting that sealed container?
Oh, right, with the hair loss and the skin peeling and all that.
Yeah, all the fun stuff.
Yeah, the not-so-fun stuff.
Exactly, and it all points to a potential danger lurking within these UAPs and the lengths that the government might go to keep it all under wraps.
Whoa, hold on. A mysterious illness. That's a whole new level of intrigue.
Yep. Right.
What could have been in that container? And what does it tell us about the potential risks involved in dealing with these UAPs? Okay, so let's get back to this mysterious illness. Hair loss, skin peeling, heart murmurs. I mean, it's scary stuff.
Yeah, and remember, we're not just speculating here. Professor Gary Nolan from Stanford actually looked at Barber's medical records.
Right.
And he concluded that radiation exposure was the most likely culprit.
Radiation exposure. Wow, that's serious. But what I don't get is, Barber claims they weren't given any protective gear. No hazmat suits, no protocols, nothing.
Yeah, that's what's really unsettling about this whole thing. It's like they were sent in blind, completely unprepared for the potential risks.
So the government's sending these guys into situations involving potentially dangerous alien technology with zero safety precautions.
It seems that way.
I mean, that's either incredibly reckless or they knew something about the dangers and just didn't care.
Yeah, it really makes you question their motives and their concern for the people involved.
Okay, but what was actually in that container that caused all these problems? Was it something from the UAP itself? Some kind of alien biohazard? Did they accidentally open a can of cosmic cooties?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Barber doesn't give us any specifics about what was actually in that container. He just says it was sealed and they were told to transport it.
So we're left with a big, fat question mark. What was in that container, and why were the consequences so severe?
It's like a cosmic game of what's in the box, but with much higher stakes.
And much worse prizes.
Yeah, no kidding. And it makes you wonder if this whole incident is connected to that larger conspiracy that Barber keeps hinting at.
Right.
And could the government be covering up the true nature of dangers associated with these UAPs?
That's a good point. Maybe this illness was the result of exposure to some kind of alien technology that they don't want the public to know about.
Exactly. It's all very hush-hush, very cloak and dagger.
Okay, but where do we go from here? I mean, we've got these incredible claims from Jacob Barber. We've got corroborating evidence from colleagues, and we even have a Stanford professor weighing in on the medical aspects. But there are still so many unanswered questions.
No, it's frustrating, right?
It is. What are the origins of these UAPs? What are their intentions? And what's the government really doing about all of this?
Well, those are the million-dollar questions, and unfortunately, we don't have all the answers. But what Barber's story does offer is a glimpse into a world that's far more complex and mysterious than most of us can imagine.
That's for sure.
It challenges our assumptions about our place in the universe and forces us to confront the possibility that we're not alone.
It's a reminder that there's still so much we don't know about the world around us. And honestly, that's what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating. It's like a journey into the unknown, full of twists and turns. It leaves you wanting more.
Absolutely. And while we may not have all the answers, one thing's for sure, Jacob Barber's story has opened up a Pandora's box of questions and possibilities, and it's a story that's likely to keep us captivated for years to come.
So to all our listeners out there, keep those minds open, stay curious, and never stop questioning the world around you. Who knows what other mysteries are waiting to be uncovered? This has been The Deep Dive, and as always, thanks for listening.